Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Sara Lubratt, and for today's video I wanted to ask some of my writing friends here on YouTube what the best and worst parts about writing a book are. I've been thinking about this question a lot and trying to figure out what my favorite and least favorite parts about writing a book and the book writing process, but I wanted to bring in a variety of answers and therefore I asked some of my writing friends.
For me, the best part about writing a novel definitely has to be that you get so involved with the characters, they become real to you. If you're even remotely like me, you daydream at every possible point during the day, so it's just sort of like spending time with your friends in your head that aren't real. It's just fantastic that you can think up this whole world and this entire storyline and it becomes like a real thing to you that you can hopefully share with other people and it will become like a real thing to them.
I think it's the best part of writing a book is super easy, and that's just being able to fall into that world and really get to know those characters and be immersed in this super awesome world that you were able to create yourself.
The best part for me about writing a book or a novel is able to craft and create something that is totally new and adventurous, and it's able to take you as the writer on a journey. Writing a book from the start to finish is, especially for me, very exploratory. I love to kind of build up things and see where they go, and I love getting to know my characters as I write them. I love getting to explore the worlds. For someone like me who writes fantasy, I just really like creating and world building and really getting down to like who these characters are, what their purpose is, what the world's like, and it's so rewarding in the end. So overall, I definitely think the best part is just being able to take something that you're forming even a little bit, like an idea in your head, and being able to expand that into something amazing.
I think the best thing about writing a book for me is that I get to go on those adventures that I never got to have through my characters. I get to be the creator of a world. I get to create worlds and plots and lives out of nothing, and I get to just really write that book I've always wanted to read. I get to be the one who creates it, and I get to choose how it ends, how it goes. And I think one of the hardest things about writing a book is that there's a lot of doubt that comes with it, because as artists we really do, pour so much of ourselves into our stories. And so when there's so much, I guess, just pieces of ourselves and stuff, it can be very easy to doubt what we're doing and doubt if it's even any good. And I think that's definitely one of the harder things that certainly I've come up against when it comes to writing a book.
However, I think the worst part about writing a novel is that so much is out of your control. So many times when I've tried to edit and the edits just didn't turn out the way I thought they were going to, or even during first drafts, things just did not come out on paper like they were in my head. When you get into like the whole querying process or even self-publishing, there's so many things about rejections or book sale numbers that are just completely out of your control. You really cannot control how people respond to your art. You can only control how the art makes you feel and how much you enjoy the process of creating.
The worst things are the things you tell yourself in your head when you feel like hating your story. Mostly when you're editing. Oh my god, this sentence is terrible. Why did I write this? No editor is ever going to touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. Well, I can't query this mess because an agent is going to hate me, and I definitely can't self-publish it because who in their right mind would read this pile of garbage? Are these things remotely true? No. So we'll just focus on the best part instead.
My favorite part of writing a novel is actually the editing process. I just really like knowing that I'm making my story better, and I find it really motivating in that way. With each new draft, I'm one step closer to the story that's in my head, and with each new draft, it's also less and less embarrassing to share with others, which is always a great feeling. And I especially love line editing and trying to make my sentences sound the best that they can be.
I think the best part about writing a book for me is that I find it really hard to get bored, and that's because I'm constantly writing, constantly thinking, and just constantly, well, not constantly, but I'm always mostly inspired to write or to think about my characters or to make a Pinterest board or to make a playlist. Like, there's constantly thoughts in my head about my work, about characters, about stories, and it's really inspiring and exciting and motivating. When I leave my room, I get the whole, oh, here she is, she's come out into the world, and it is because when I'm in my room, I'm in my own little world. Another best part about writing a book is having my best friend keep me company. I say I'm alone, but I'm never really alone because I have this one. I guess the worst part kind of goes hand in hand, and that's the fact that stepping away from writing a book makes me feel guilty. If I'm not writing for one night, or if I'm distracted by YouTube videos or a new Netflix series, I feel guilt and I get so angry at myself for relaxing and taking a break when that's really detrimental. While that's like nice to have that constant inspiration, sometimes it's like, oh my god, my brain isn't gonna stop. It doesn't stop. So yeah, that's probably the worst part, but again, it's the worst part, but it's also the best part because I want to be constantly thinking about my book. I love that I am, but it's also a lot. You know, it's a lot.
My favorite part would have to be receiving the idea all the way up until I finish drafting it. There's something so magical about the discovery part of a tale. Even though I am very much a plotter, the moment I get the idea, I like to either go for a walk or do menial tasks around the home or just sit and stare at a blank wall and daydream about that idea. And through this daydreaming process, I am discovering things and then writing down quick notes of outlines or maybe a scene or a line a character might say, and slowly this outline appears, and then it could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year, and I finally feel ready to sit down and write it. And just bringing that idea to life into a somewhat terrible first draft is just so magical. Like there's nothing better than that feeling just in life, creating a new story.
I love writing a book because I can call it mine, and even though there are stories that are somewhat similar to what I'm writing, nobody will ever write the same story that I wrote because it's mine. It came from me, it came from my creative mind, and I love it. And that is probably the best part of writing a book, in my opinion.
I think the best part about writing a book is just creating something that is completely your own, a new world, new characters, and the excitement with all of the possibilities you have creating your book. Another incredible thing that comes with writing your story is just the community of writers and AuthorTubers. Sharing your love and a passion for your own story can motivate so many other people, and you can also make such incredible friends, and I definitely think that is one of the best things with writing a book.
The best part about writing a story for me is when you get a new idea. So I'm a person who definitely has shiny new idea syndrome, but that moment when I get a new idea and there's just endless possibilities, there's no expectations, there's no preset anything, you can just do whatever you want and you can take this thing and mold it into something amazing, and you can't sleep, you can't eat, all you do is think about it and you want to plot and plan and develop this story idea into something amazing. And that, for me, that feeling, I don't think that any part of the process, maybe other than publishing, can top that feeling of having that new idea and just the endless possibility that awaits you from that new idea. You can just do anything with it, and I love that feeling. It is just so incredible. So that for me is the best part.
I think the best part of writing a book is getting to see this idea that you've worked so long and hard on finally come together, and getting to print it out and hold it in your hands and be able to like realize that you just did that.
My least favorite part of the process would definitely have to be those days that come with writing draft 1, when you just hate everything you're writing and it causes you to second guess your whole story and existence, and it's just the worst time. You start doubting whether or not your story is worth writing at all, if it's worth continuing, which it is, by the way. If you were wondering your story is worth writing, here's a sign that you should finish your novel. Those moments happen to everyone, and they happen way more frequently than I would like to admit, which is probably why I prefer the editing process. Yeah, you just have to push through them, but they are the worst part.
I think the worst part, at least my least favorite part about writing a book, is actually having to start the first draft, because I never know where to begin, because I often have so many ideas for the story that I just want to get down on paper and I just want to see it done, that actually starting and actually putting those words on the page I think are my least favorite part. So I think the worst thing about writing a book is facing the blank page in a rough draft or a first draft or a zero draft or whatever you want to call it, because I often have so many ideas for a first draft that it's so hard to figure out exactly where to begin.
My least favorite part, however, would be the editing. I hate it, and once that first draft is over, it takes a lot of willpower to continue onward, which is probably why it's taking me way too long to edit my current story.
I would say the worst part is the not knowing. When you finish your first draft and you have this sense of accomplishment of finishing your first draft, but for me, after that happens, I kind of go into this state of just uncertainty. I'm kind of sitting there and reading through my first draft and asking myself, how do I make this better? How do I get this to a place where I'm fine with people reading it and I would send this to a publisher or an agent? And I think that for me is the worst part of knowing that it needs to be better, but not knowing quite how to get there. And of course, that's all part of the process. It's all, it's going to be what it is. But that for me, I think the uncertainty and the not knowing, that's definitely the worst part for me.
As for the worst part of writing, I definitely think for me, it's the time commitment. Writing is not easy, especially when you're on a traditional publishing track. That's what I want to do. And even if you're not traditionally publishing and you're self-publishing, which has its own set of complications, both processes can be very time consuming. And it's not that I don't like taking the time to perfect something, but I think it's hard sometimes to realistically set timelines for yourself and be able to follow through, especially if you have a day job or you have other commitments and you just can't have the ability to write full time. So that's the hardest thing for me to grapple with, is just knowing that I want to have a goal to be published one day, but realistically that might still take a few years for me just because I can't always commit the time to perfect it. And even when I have time to dedicate to writing, it doesn't mean that something I'm going to write doesn't need more editing and more editing and more editing. And there is such a process to writing when you're really serious about it, where most bystanders might just say, oh, you wrote a book, now you're done, right? You're gonna publish it. When really it's well, I wrote a book and now I have to write the book again and write the book again and give it to some people to read and then rewrite and then edit and give it to someone else. And it's just a process like that. So that's definitely the worst part, is just knowing that once you start, it is a time commitment and you have to be always pushing yourself in order to fulfill that.
Now, the worst part about writing a book is it can be very stressful. It can be very frustrating and difficult. It can be so hard to describe how a character is feeling or what they're doing if you've never done this yourself. And nothing is more frustrating than writing 50,000 words or any number of words towards any type of project and realizing that you have way too many storylines going on, nothing matches. You wrote yourself into a corner and your next option is to start over.
I would say the worst thing about writing a book is that it isn't always rewarding because it is such a long process. It can be quite hard to find the time or find the motivation to write sometimes, but I think having little rewards as you go, maybe treating yourself to something you love or a book, if you write a chapter you really enjoyed or you wrote a specific word count, I think can be such a great way to motivate yourself and reward yourself as you go, rather than have one big goal.
Alright, that's gonna be it from me. Well, I guess us today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sara Lubratt. Everyone included in this video will have their channel links down below in the description box if you want to check out any of their videos. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up because it really supports my channel by telling the YouTube algorithm that you liked my video and that someone else might too. If you are new here and want to see more videos from me, make sure you scroll down below, hit that big red subscribe button and that little notification bell next to it so you get notified every time I upload a brand new video. Make sure you leave a comment down below telling us what you think the best and worst parts about writing a book are, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye!